Shalom, and peace and blessings to you all. I'm Chef Shauna, Atlanta Camp, and I'd like to show you one way I create cheesecake unleavened bread. Yes, I did say cheesecake. Let's begin. Today, I'll be using all-purpose flour, raw sugar, and butter. And I am using the base recipe that I was taught by my senior sisters. But in this case, I'll be doubling the recipe. Now you see me with 3 pans because this recipe is kind of like a layered lemon bar / cheesecake sandwich in a sense. So you definitely don't want those layers too tall. For one, it won't fit in the cute little unleavened bread cups that we use to break bread, and it's just too much to chew on if it's too tall. So considering we're making a layered bread, I am splitting the recipe. Now, if you're at home and you do this in a single batch rather than a double, you'll need a pan and 1 small pan to go alongside it. So, first, we will begin with our mise en place. You see that I have everything together, and now we'll begin prepping the ingredients so that we can just flow through this recipe. I am going to zest 3 lemons prior to juicing them. Now keep in mind, gloves are definitely a great asset in the kitchen, but they are never, let me repeat, they are never to replace proper hand washing. You must thoroughly wash your hands in between tasks and as you need to, of course. Anytime you touch your face, anytime you scratch your hair, whatever the case may be, just remember good sanitation practices, clean counters, and all that jazz. So you see me here with my ginger zest, and now I am moving on to the eggs. So now that the citrus has been prepped as well as my ginger zested, I am preparing the filling for my cheesecake batter. I have the cream cheese, I'm adding 2 eggs, and I'll also add a little bit of flour and sugar. You may have noticed that I also added sour cream, and I'm adding a little pinch of salt to enhance all the flavors. We'll also add a splash of vanilla, lemon juice, about half of what I've just squeezed there, and get that all mixing together, and I'm letting my electric mixer do the work. To this cheesecake mix, I'm adding a bit of the lemon zest, maybe a teaspoon or so, as well as the same amount of freshly grated ginger. Now, one thing I like to do is hold off on the milk when I get to the actual unleavened bread portion of this treat, because that way I can add as much acid as I need to and taste as I go to ensure that it's a nice flavor. You'll see here that I am combining the cream cheese and sour cream mix until it's nice and smooth. In the meantime, we'll get our dry ingredients measured for the unleavened bread base. Again, this is a doubled recipe, so I've done 4 cups of all-purpose flour. I'm going to add a pinch of salt, a bit of zest, a bit of ginger, and I'll have that to the side ready to go. One thing that I like to use while creating the unleavened breads is the creaming method. I always measure out all my dry ingredients and then all my wet, and then we will slowly integrate them into the creamed butter and sugar. simply added a bit of ginger into that cheesecake mix as I stated earlier. So here we go, a little taste. It is not unlawful to eat undercooked eggs, so I'm just taking a little taste to ensure that it's where I want it to be. And you can adjust it to your preferences also. Mind you, you don't have to make lemon unleavened bread. This could be lime. It could be any type of citrus blend or citrus in general, or even just a classic vanilla and add maybe berries on top. So after tasting, I saw that I needed to add all that lemon juice. It was about a half a cup. To be efficient, we'll keep the ball rolling. I simply got my cheesecake batter out and I am going to get my butter melted and get ready to create that unleavened bread base, which essentially is a lemon flavored unleavened bread. Now personally, I like to begin with melted butter, but you could tweak this how you see fit and simply use softened butter as opposed to melted. You'll have more of a cake-like consistency. I also like to ensure that my cake is nice and moist by adding a little bit of cream cheese into the actual batter itself. You could do that with either sour cream and even a dollop of mayo. I know it sounds gross, but mayo is really just oil and egg with a little acid. So here we go. We're beginning the cream method with butter and sugar. We have our paddle attachment and we'll get to work. It's so much easier when the mixer does it for us. Just as I stated earlier, we'll add the lemon to get that flavor profile where we need it before adding any milk. This will let me know that it's acidic enough. And another great thing about making this particular type of unleavened bread is all that citrus and the kick from the ginger really does help balance the sweetness of all the sugar. That's something I try to keep in mind when I make unleavened breads in general. So I'm separately cracking my eggs, making sure there are no shells in there. I'm going to give them a little whisk. Don't forget to wash your hands. I'm going to add just a splash of milk, and I have my vanilla. Now, I personally like to use a whole tablespoon of pure vanilla extract for the traditional base. Remember, I doubled, so that's why I have 2. Now that my sugar and butter have been creamed nicely, I'm going to start alternating the dry and the wet ingredients and incorporating it into that creamed butter mixture. Just be mindful that in between additions, you take the time to scrape the sides. This will ensure that there is not a clump of flour at the bottom or on the side of your mixing bowl. You'll also want to wipe the flour on the top of the paddle as well. Continue this process until all of your dry and wet ingredients are incorporated. Now remember to be safe. If you're using an electric mixer, such as a KitchenAid, they are powerful kitchen tools. So do not try to scrape down the sides of your bowl while the machine is running. Safety first. Now I only added a little splash of milk just to get it all going. I'm adding about a teaspoon of ginger and about a tablespoon of the lemon zest we prepared earlier. We'll reserve the rest for later. I'll add a splash of cream because I can see that it needed loosening just a bit. Now look at that. It's a beautiful, creamy concoction.
Shalom, Israel. This is Bishop Nathaniel. I want you to know that you can view all our Sabbath classes live on IUIC TV. That's right, I said on IUIC TV. Download the app today. Shalom.
And again, I like to taste my batter just to ensure that the flavor is nice. We're almost there. I believe at this stage I have added about a half a cup of lemon juice in that base. So if this recipe was done at a regular volume, you would only need about a quarter cup. So let's get our pans ready. I love using parchment paper. They're great for keeping things from sticking, and they're also a great trick for lifting it out to stop the cooking. Now remember, the reason I have 3 pans is I have a doubled batch here, and you will definitely need to split your base even if you're making a single batch. You would likely get 1 whole pan plus half of that white ceramic dish that I have there. Now let me just let you know, I made a little bit of a boo-boo. I was just on a roll, spreading and making my batter and filling the pans, and I actually added 2 little cheesecake batter. I should have split that amount of batter of cheesecake mix amongst the top of the 2 big pans, and I should have just made that white pan a lemon. So I'm going to go through the trouble of making a lovely lemon ginger whipped cream that's nice and tart with a mild sweetness to go on top, and nobody will notice I made a little boo-boo. I'm using an awesome tool that many bakers have. It's an offset spatula. It makes spreading very easy. So here's our beautiful cheesecake batter. And we're going to spread it between the 3 pans. Again, if I had done this again, I would have simply used that batter between the 2 large pans and just made that a lemon glazed one over there. And maybe I would have done the little one with cheesecake batter. I personally wanted it to be a little taller on the cheesecake side of things. Now, if you do as I'm saying here, you will not need to make the lemon whipped cream. Although I must say, it was definitely a delicious mistake that ended with a positive result. It's important to tap the air bubbles out to help prevent cracking on our cheesecake. Bake it nice and low at 325 degrees Fahrenheit. Now I have that sugar from sifting. I have the large granules, and I've mixed the remainder of our lemon zest and ginger with it. And I'm just going to sprinkle it on top of all of them. Now, waste not, want not. I have here a lemon wedge left over, as well as the skins from my ginger, and I'm going to make myself a nice cup of tea while I wait for that cheesecake bread to bake. Perfect. Baking time is going to vary on your oven. For me, it takes 45 minutes. What you're looking for is a nice tight crumb. However, it's okay to pull it out just a little under because it will continue to cook in the pan. I have cooled the unleavened bread fully and then refrigerated it. And here we are a day later. I am icing it and finishing up. We have that lemon whipped cream. I just simply took heavy whipping cream, added some fresh lemon zest, fresh ginger, a little bit of sugar, and a splash of vanilla to make my lemon whipped cream. And because I like everything to be identifiable, I added some on the top so everyone knows exactly what they're about to bite into. Remember, make sure that you're using clean hands and working from clean surfaces is very important. Minimize the risk of cross-contamination and keep the people that you love safe and healthy. Yum, yum. It is all done, and look at those beautiful layers. Be careful, it can be dangerous.